One horse was not careful, it fell down the mountain. Tens of millions of US dollars have also fallen into the sky. But these people did not feel sorry. They burned money to keep warm in the evening. Because for them, this little money was not much at all. They had hundreds of such bags. Last week, they were still people without any money, but because they wanted to earn some money to support their family, they went to South America, which was the border region between the three countries. Pop was the leader. He was a British Special Forces soldier. He had taken on a government mission to investigate the drug trafficking group. His superiors had been fighting drug crimes. But behind his back, he colluded with them to gain illicit profits. That day, his spy was Yovona, who told him about an important lead. She was made in the key position of drug traffickers. Since then, she has learned the whereabouts of the drug lord. That guy hid all the money in his house. Maybe he had about $7 billion. She could help Pop as long as he helps her save her brother. When the Pop has finished listening, he agreed, but he had no intention of reporting this to his superiors. He wanted to take that money for himself. It was this reason that he reached out to some old friends. They were all Special Forces soldiers and had fought with him before. After William retired, he worked as a coaching teacher. Although the salary was not much, it is enough to live well. Tom has become a real estate agent, but he hasn't sold any house in a long time. Bills that needed to be paid were driving him crazy. Francisco was an excellent former pilot. This time, he was taking care of a newborn baby. The person who was the most miserable, that was Miller. He wanted to make a few $100s a day, so he had to be on the court to let people hit. Because Pop wanted to advise them to come with him, he lied and said, this was just a scout. A week later they could get $170 million. When the few of them heard that, immediately, they began to act together. They climbed over rocks and streams to reach the drug lord's forest. Through scouting, they discovered that the house was surrounded by a lot of iron nets. There are also cameras and weight sensors, but these were trivial to them. The most important thing was that the crowd knew that they had been tricked by Pop. He wanted to set up this team to rob $7 billion of drug lords. They didn't want to participate, but they were really difficult. With Pop's sincere advice, finally, they decided to do it once. The weekend, as the habit of drug lord, he led a group of guards to escort his family to the chapel to pray. When the guard leaves, Yovona drove to give money on time. The five of them entered the house successfully. After defeating the guards, Pop destroyed all the surveillance equipment. Everyone went upstairs. They searched the room, but there were no drugs, and no coins. Some of them were stunned. Maybe they fell into Yovona's trap. It was at that moment, suddenly, that Pop remembered Yovona's words. She said everything in this house was a drug lord's safe. Then he thought of the paint pot that had been placed on the ground. The smell of paint was all over the room. Suddenly, Pop thought of the wall. He kept banging on the wall. He got some money out of the wall quickly. These people were banging the wall like crazy. Because the whole thing inside the wall was money. They stuffed money into each bags happily. Hit the wall next to it, inside was also money. This time, they really grow rich. But time only 8 minutes left, they carried the big and small bags to the car that they had prepared in advance. When William got to the second floor, two other friends hit another wall. There was a lot of money here. Very quickly they filled up a dozen more bags. Money was already loaded in both trunks. Miller came back and told Tom, let's get ready to leave. But he found that Tom was still banging on the wall. Do you know Tom? I've known you for 10 years. You never miss a second when you retreat. But Tom said if he stayed 15 more minutes they could make a little more money. The large amount of money made him lose his mind. Fortunately, Pop advised him promptly. Because there was a lot of money there, basically, they couldn't take it all away. They were about to burn this place down. Suddenly, the cupboard door opened. It turned out to be the drug lord. Pop went ahead and shot him. But William was not careful, so he was injured. His stomach was hit by a bullet. Immediately, they stopped his bleeding. It was at that moment that Miller went up and told everyone that the first guard of the boss had returned. They couldn't run away then. They were forced to fight a fierce battle. Miller took William away. Another man shot a guard. Francisco appeared on the first floor and shot another one. Like before, they worked well together. Soon they shot a few more. Tom shot the security guard in the room. Then he set fire to the whole house. Pop was outside. He stopped a car. William shot the guards. Then 5 people drove 2 cars and left the scene quickly. Before the second security team returned they reached the place where Yovona had arranged. Money was taken down from the car, and was piled up like a mountain. William's friends had been waiting there before. The friend also brought a transport helicopter. But that was time when they discovered the problem. The money that they had robbed was too much. About roughly 27,000 pounds, worth $250 billion. That amount of weight exceeded the weight of the helicopter. But they also didn't have the heart to leave half, and could only take it away regardless. They took the Yovona sisters to the Peruvian border. Pop gave her $30 million as he promised. At the same time, he also arranged an escape route for them. Yovona reminded Pop that their money has far exceeded $7 billion. So that money wasn't just the drug lords. Many people would come to hunt them down. But it was too late to hear these words. They would have to retreat quickly. Soon, they reached South America, the highest point of the Andes. As long as they crossed this mountain range, they would reach the coast. They could take their money and run away. But when the helicopter flew over the top of the mountain, the helicopter's engine issued a warning. Francisco thought that if you didn't lose weight, something was about to happen. There was no other way. They could only open the compartment door and throw all the $5 billion cash in the compartment down. Francisco prepared to refuel to fly over the mountains, but when he was about to fly to the top of the mountain, the plane's engine caught fire. Immediately, Francisco turned his head to let the plane land on a farm at the foot of the mountain. But they were carrying the large bag. It was impossible for them to land. Because Miller wanted to keep his life, so he climbed under the helicopter and kicked the money away. But due to the force of inertia, he was also about to fall. When Miller saw that the plane was about to lose control, he jumped to a safe location. The helicopter also fell right next to him. Luckily, none of them were injured. But more than $200 million of them has been discovered by the people here. Some of them were a little worried and they ran up to tell the people to leave. Unexpectedly, the people there relied on the crowds, so they demanded a price increase. The two sides argued fiercely. Suddenly, an old man raised a knife towards them. In the blink of an eye, Tom shot them. Crying was heard everywhere. This time it's a big deal. Luckily, Pop reacted quickly. He went to the head of the village to give each dead family $1 million and then used $2 million to buy some horses. So the people just let them go, but when they got to the top of the village there was a boy in a yellow shirt. He was staring at Tom. They went through the jungle, and they waded across the river again. Then began to cross the Andes. But the road here was both steep and narrow. They could only let them pass one by one. They walked for a while. One horse was not careful, so it fell down the mountain. A few $100,000 would also be lost. Everyone started to blame each other. Their spirit was really too stressful. Then they crossed another road. They chased the horses away. Because they couldn't climb the rock. They could only use ropes to pull up each bag of money. But this way they could only move at turtle speed. In the evening, the temperature dropped so that the people were so cold that they huddled together. Miller burned a banknote. He said that the money could not be transferred anyway. Better yet, we burn to keep warm. Tom sounded reasonable. Immediately, he poured out a bag of money to burn. The next day, some of them continued on their way. Suddenly someone fired bullets at them. Immediately, everyone hid behind the rock. After they had found the location of the gunfire, they had dispersed to prepare for siege. Tom targeted quickly. Tom shot him with a shotgun. But before he could breathe a sigh of relief, another person appeared behind him and shot Tom in the head. Pop shot the enemy quickly. So he was the boy in the yellow shirt in the village, and he took revenge on Tom. They are very sad. They dragged money and Tom's body. They went for a day. They finally reached the shore. But there was a problem. The date they made an appointment with the boat owner was 5 days ago. Miller took a few stacks of money with him and said he was going to ask for information. After one night Miller came back and said, although the boat owner is still waiting for them. But the master's subordinates have a large amount of weapons. They are on the shore and looking for us. Pop wanted to bring money to break the siege. But with advice from William. Finally, he calmed down. Because they couldn't bring more than 100 bags of money to break the siege. Furthermore, they had to bring Tom's body with them. At that time, their greed also disappeared gradually. They threw all the money down a ravine. After that, each person brought only one bag of money along with Tom's body. They went down the mountain. After they got to town. By nightfall, Miller swam to the boat and went to find the owner. Others went to rob the car of the Tycoon's Juniors. But it wasn't long before they were discovered. After a chase, though, Pop was able to knock the cars out. But the enemy was getting more and more numerous. Fortunately, Miller caught up in time. They drove into the sea and overturned a car that was following behind. They dragged Tom's body onto the boat, then escaped smoothly. In the end they only had $50 million left. They laundered money through an empty company. Each of them got $10 million, but no one needed that money. They sent all of it to Tom's family. After that, everyone said goodbye to each other. Through many births and deaths. In the end they got nothing. But William pulled out an address paper for Pop. That means, they can still change their lives with the remaining money. See you again in the next video. Don't forget to give me one like, one to subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching this video.